And there's Richard the Beast. Good morning. We're here at the Gros Ventre Wilderness, a place I haven't heard of until earlier this week, in the Teton or Bridger-Teton National Forest. I'm going to be doing a loop, and I was invited by Richard on the Backcountry Post forums, and we'll be doing a loop around that mountain.
Our plan was to take the Granite Creek trail heading upstream. We would then cross the mountain range via the Flat Creek Cutoff Trail and West Fork Crystal Creek Trail, eventually connecting with the Crystal Creek Trail. From there, we would start to head back to our starting point by following the Crystal Creek upstreams. We would cross back over the mountain range through the pass between Antoinette Peak and Corner Peak via the Swift Creek Trail. From there, we would drop down hills all the way back to our car. Since this was early June, we expected snow around the main passes across the mountain ranges. Our contingency plan was just to do Turquoise Lake further up from the Granite Creek drainage. We would follow Granite Creek up the drainage for our entire first day, and it was a beautiful walk with many shades of blue and green. The tranquil feeling created by the rushing water was a great way to start out a hike, so much so that it put us in a false sense of security. Along the way, we passed our last sign of civilization, a public hot springs. If it wasn't so hot on our last day, I'd return.
Have to take the obligatory welcome to the wilderness picture.
The elevation was pretty mild for the entire day, with few places where the trail took us higher up over the creek.
Yeah.
The creek would eventually catch up with us.
Tall brush there. Good. Looks like she's gonna move along, but yeah. She's the trail goes right there.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see it. Yeah.
We want to be that close.
Yeah.
Especially not with a calf.
Ah,
oh man,
so cute.
You, baby. Oh my lord. Yeah, she's gonna be in a real bad mood if we get close to her.
Yeah. Oh my god, so awesome.
Alright, now we've got her full attention.
We took a break after our moose encounter in the field of wildflowers. We ended the day in the mid-afternoon with plenty of energy left. We decided to camp where there was a good flat spot and a water source close by. Rather than starting up the side of the mountain, on a steep climb with unknown camping situations.
All right, Richard, how do you feel about today's hike?
Pretty good. We made good time. It was a beautiful walk. So
Yeah.
all good. All good.
Do you have a favorite part?
I mean, that moose calf, that was the smallest moose I've ever seen in my life. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was also in the most perfect valley.
Yeah, it was. It was beautiful. Yeah.
Overall, it was a relaxing stroll up the valley. The 10 miles did not feel like it and definitely gave me a false sense of confidence that would come crashing down the next day.
Cool. Thanks for being the interview.
Yeah, no problem.
Good morning. Welcome to day number 2. Today, we are going to go over this ridge. There's probably snow up there. We'll see. All right, let's get going.
We were on the steep uphill to start the day. It didn't help that we weren't able to find the trail to start. One thing I learned a lot from Richard this trip was not to depend on the trails that may disappear altogether in these remote wildernesses, but rather navigate the terrain. Of course, please stay on the trail to prevent erosion in more popular areas. Our views on the way up consisted of the Granite Creek drainage we had spent the last night in, and a few unnamed peaks in the background. Eventually, we did find Flat Creek Cutoff Trail, which made for easier hiking.
My legs were finally away pretty well. They were telling me they wanted to go back to sleep early.
At the top of the pass, we reached the snow line. The snow, mud, and downfall made the next part of our hike miserable. Physically, I was post-holing very often. Technically, navigation became a mess as the trail was covered up by the snow and downfall. It would not be the last we'd see of the situation on the day. After finally struggling through the forest, we were in the open and out of the trees. The steep uphill wasn't difficult, but it was a bit slow going for me as the forest and snow took a lot out of me. As we crested the plateau, the Grand Teton stretched out in front of us. I still have to hike those mountains, but you may not find a better view of them. We had lunch up here once we found a spot out of the wind and some snow to melt for water. Afterwards, we came to the part we were actually worried about pre-trip, the snowfields. The snow was much firmer at this elevation and it was easy going. Much faster also to slide down.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Of course, the trail was nowhere in sight at this point, so we made our way navigating through the terrain. Once we reached an open flat, there were signs of a horse outfitter camp. Here we picked up the trail again. We had a water crossing of the West Fork Crystal Creek. The Crystal Creek itself drops into a canyon where we stayed up, contouring around the mountain.
This gives you a good flavor of most of the range.
Yeah. I just saw a butt and I was like,
We saw the first of many elk in this valley. We'd see another in unnamed pond, we think.
I think I see spikes. That might be a
yeah, okay.
I can't tell. It could be that.
This area next to the pond would have been a great camp with plenty of water, but we still had a lot of distance to make up. What came next would be one of the most difficult slogs of our entire trip. Again, the snow and downfall had covered the trail. We picked it up for a couple steps before it's all gone. After an alpine pond, we found a flat area to call it a day. I was so beat that filming stopped being a priority. Our route on the day followed somewhat the Flat Creek Cutoff Trail and the West Fork Crystal Creek Trail. Overall, it was among the toughest days I've ever had on trail. Well, if you can call it a trail. It was the lower areas in the forest that kicked my butt. Higher up, the snow was solid, but they were softer lower down in the trees. So I posted a lot more there. It also didn't help that navigation became a lot more difficult in the trees with the snow and downfall covering the trail. We had nothing we could see to help us navigate, so it was a lot of us looking at our phones navigating by GPS. The highlight of the day was definitely on top of the pass, where we had the grand views of the Grand Tetons.
Welcome to day 3. Yesterday kicked our ass. Today we're getting out. We have one passing our way. Hopefully there's not a lot of snow in the trees. Alright, here we go.
With plenty of get out energy, we headed out early on day 3. We would take the rest of the West Fork Crystal Creek Trail to the more trafficked Crystal Creek Trail. From there we will follow Crystal Creek to the Swift Creek Trail. We're pretty confident in going over the pass. But as we learned from the day before, it was a forest we were now concerned about. To begin the day, we had to navigate through a little bit of snow before we were below the snow line. We found the trail and it brought us to an open meadow bench. In the distance, a herd of elk ran away from us. I didn't know we smelled that bad already. It wasn't easy going on the rest of the West Fork Crystal Creek Trail, as the deadfall was extremely bad, possibly from the 2020 Labor Day windstorm that hit the area. Hopefully the trail crew have cleared this area since. Once we forded the Crystal Creek, we found the Crystal Creek Trail. It was much more clear as we cruised up the valley. The trail took us on some bluffs above the creek at points, but the views of the creek were mostly limited.
That's cool.
One of our favorite sections was a huge meadow just before our uphill. These meadows were great for catching animals in the distance, and what we saw was a huge herd of elk with their calves. Once the elk saw us, they ran from the river across the field with a group of calves into the forest. Then the adults would run back to escort another group who had been stashed out of sight to the forest. It was a pretty cool sighting and a highlight for sure. Never had I wished I had a zoom lens on me. At the head of the meadow, there was a great campsite and another crossing of Crystal Creek. Then our last uphill began. We didn't find much deadfall, which made things peachy. Eventually, we reached the snow line again, and gone was any semblance of a trail. Rather than fighting the soft snow, we decided just to hike up the creek. I think we made the right decision since it was a lot easier, plus anything to avoid the forest covered with snow. The only difficult part was the final climb out of the drainage. There was a lot of snow and we had to make a couple of climbing moves to get out. The final push of the pass would involve a lot more snow. Like the day before, the snow held well even though it was a bit softer today under the hot sun. We had a few more post holes, but it was still better than the forest. We put on our traction devices as we near the steepest parts of the hike.
See our cars?
From the pass, we had a 360-degree view. We saw the Crystal Creek drainage we came up today, Pyramid Peak in the distance, the tallest point in front of us, the Antoinette Peak, Open Door Mountain next to it, the Granite Creek Valley where our cars were parked, Corner Peak above a bowl, and Black Peak between a couple of wall formations. What goes up must come down, and we had a long way down to go. We were pretty used to snow by now, so I thought I wouldn't have anything to worry about, until Richard literally took us down a waterfall. I knew at this point he was just trying to kill me. I guess that's what I get for meeting up with a stranger on the internet. Still, I would join him for another adventure. About 4 miles to the trailhead, we saw the first people on our entire trip. A group camped out just on the snow line on the Swift Creek Trail.
Finished most of this descent, and the last little part is just a stroll.
Yeah. We've been waiting for that our entire hike.
The downhills burned our quads, but it was the scorching sun that really drained whatever energy we had left. The hot springs were definitely out at this point, bringing on the cold beers. Our final mile was through a burn, where the wildfire has taken over the landscape. At least it was flat.
And we're done.
We're done.
Woo. How do you feel?
Hell of a trip.
Oh yeah.
Good lord. Ready for the hammer.
Yeah.
Thanks to Richard for inviting me on this trip and allowing me to learn so much from him. And thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and join me for my next adventure on this trip returning to the Wind River Range.